Jimbo's Garage.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Jimbo's Garage. Well, it was about a year ago when I decided to make my very first knife out of an old used saw blade. And it didn't turn out too bad. It wasn't too bad considering I didn't really put any thought into it. I just kind of scribed something out and cut it out, and I was pretty pleased with the way it turned out. But I think it's time for a second attempt. And this time, I want to put a little bit more thought into it. I don't want to make your ordinary little knife. I want to make your unordinary big knife. Let's get started. All right, so you know there's sometimes a project that you do that you just wish you never got started on. Well, this is one of them. Anyways, I reached over for one of my old saw blades and then got an old soapstone right here with a sharpener. Sharpener you get at the Home Depot. These things are used to sharpen carpenter's pencils. These limestones are about the same. Limestone or soapstone, not sure what it's called, but they're about the same size. And I just used it to put a nice point on it, and then that's what I'm going to use to draw the shape of the blade that I want to put on there. And I got it just about the first time. That is kind of it right there, kind of a unique, different shape. That's just what I drew out, and I think I'm going to go with it. Now you see me cutting it out right here with my angle grinder, and I'm just using a cutoff wheel, and I'm taking several passes. The steel on this blade is just a little bit harder than normal, and I'm just taking my time, especially with the radiuses, and making several passes and cutting through, and eventually I get all the way through, and there's that. And I just repeat the process here for the other side. Now it's a little bit more of a tighter radius on the front part of the knife right there. So again, several passes through there, and you can see I'm running it past the handle because I can't get inside of the handle area. I'll get that as soon as I get the blank itself cut out of the blade right here. Just about got it, and there it is. So now I want to finish up the handle area, and to get in there I just made several little cross cuts right here and able to piece it out. And once I got it all pieced out, it's time to take it over to the belt grinder and finish shaping everything out. Now this belt grinder is not exactly used for this. You know, I don't make knives. I really wish I had a really nice belt grinder, you know, for you know, cutting metal. It's just one of these days maybe I'll get one. You can see, you know, I need like a 2-inch wide blade and something. I can only grind what I could with what I got right there. It was time to try to polish this thing up a little bit. There's, you know, from the saw blade itself, the circular saw blade cutting through concrete, there's a lot of swirls in it. And I got countless hours trying to get those swirls out with flap discs and different grits. And I just was having a hard time. The other thing I was having a hard time with is putting the edge on this knife. I couldn't do it with the belt sander, which would, you know, have been nice, but because this blade has got so many radiuses to it, there's nothing flat to it. I couldn't make it work on the belt grinder, so I had to do pretty much everything by hand, filing it by hand, and I gotta say this took a lot longer than I thought. And this is why this is one of these projects where, you know. Sometimes I just wish I would have never started this, but hey, I'm in the middle of it, so I'm going to get the thing finished up and do the best I can with it. You can see I'm still filing, trying to get the edge the way I want it, and you know, I got so much time invested in this at this point. I was really getting frustrated, but I didn't want to give up, so I just kept going and realized I just want to do the best I can. And here I am again. I got a stripping wheel this time, still trying to get the scratches out of the blade, and you know, that worked a little bit better. And then I even had a metal polishing blade right here. I switched over to that and tried to buff it out the best I can with this metal polishing blade, and yeah, that didn't really work too well. So ultimately, it was down to the sandpaper and wooden block, wet dry, and I went through the grits with this 100 grit, 120, 150, 220, 320, and ultimately 400. That's the biggest grit that I have is 400. So I just was going to go with that and be okay with it. There's a lot of hours of sanding and a lot more time involved than what I really wanted to put into it. But eventually I gave up and said I'm going to be good with it. So it's time for the handle now, and I'm just taping everything off with some painter's tape just to protect the what polish I have on it, and keep from cutting myself, I should say, as I'm working with the handle. Little protection there. Now the handle, here we go. I'm just kind of shaping that out. These little dots are representing the holes. I'm going to be using some 1/4-inch aluminum dowels to hold the handle together. And I'm just center punching this out before I get it over to the drill press and drill this out. Now I mentioned it's just a 1/4-inch dowel, so I am drilling 1/4-inch holes right here. And you can see I got a wood backer plate behind it and clamping it down to keep it from moving around while I get these holes drilled. And that worked out pretty good. I got to say, out of this whole knife build project, this handle is probably the best thing that worked. Everything went together smoothly with that. And I just picked out this hardwood that I went to my hardwood supply store. I saw this stuff. I thought it was interesting, and it's called, there it is, paddock or paddock. I'm not really certain, but really interesting wood and good color. So I'm just marking the wood we need right here. I'm going to take it over to the miter saw and just cut off the chunk, and this is some pretty interesting wood, I gotta say. Okay, I was at my local hardwood supply store here, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, and they got all kinds of interesting wood there. I don't know any of it, or I don't know a lot of it, the names of some of it, but I picked up a couple samples, and on this particular one right here, it looks like it's 4/4, and it's paddock or paddock. Maybe you wood guys out there might know. P-A-D-A-U-K. Never heard of it. Interesting color. Got a sample piece, and I just cut off what we need to make the handle. And this stuff smells sweet. It almost smells like vanilla or something. And the solder, and this looks like orange on the inside here. So I don't know. This is going to be pretty interesting. Looks like it's some nice wood. So let's take it over to the bandsaw and slice it up. Alright, so I'm just laying the blade out. I'm using a silver pencil right here to scribe the outline of the blade. That worked out pretty good, showed up pretty good on this wood right here. Took it over the bandsaw and then just trimmed everything out. You know, this wood seems to be really nice to work with, not too terribly hard, cuts really nice, and just overall is really nice to work with. Once I got the knife shape cut out the way I liked it right there, then just sliced it right in half. I'm going to be using, obviously, a side for each side and sandwiching the blade in between. It's going to create the handle. A little bit of super glue temporarily to put on the first piece right there, and then take it over to the drill press to get some nice clean holes all the way through the one side. And once I get that done, super glue again the second handle together, line everything up, be sure I got clearance all around the blade, and then I'm able to go ahead and finish drilling that all the way through. That lined up these holes perfectly through the metal and on both sides, and then I'm just split it off right here with a little chisel there, and cleaned up the residue from the super glue before I made the final epoxy right here. And this is epoxy. This is a 2-part epoxy you got at the big box store there, and mixed everything together. A nice liberal coat on the metal itself and the wood. Just be sure everything is completely covered. And then drive the dowels through, and I got the dowel, and they went through perfectly. I left them proud, about 1/4 inch each side, clamped everything together. Here it is the very next day, everything dried. Took it over to the belt grinder here, and just shaped up everything I could to bring the wood down to the metal itself, and then did some got everything I could on the belt grinder, and then took it over the vise, and here's some emery cloth and some sandpaper for the final finishing touches and finish shaping. Turned out really good. I'm really pleased with the way that handle turned out. Just taking the painter's tape off here, exposing the blade, get it over the buffing wheel, and give it one more attempt to buff a good shine on the blade as best I can. And there it is, worked out as best as I would hope it would. And then just a little coat of linseed oil to give it that little bit of a luster, and there it is. The project is complete, and pretty pleased with the way that turned out. Alright, well there it is. The big knife project is complete. And what did I learn from this? I learned a knife maker I am not. I had all kinds of problems making this thing, and I know a lot of it has to do with the shape of the blade. It was extremely difficult to get an edge, a consistent edge, I should say, on both sides of this knife. And I spent countless hours off camera trying to get the scratches out of the knife itself that were embedded in from the saw blade. I've used a number of abrasives and wet and dry sandpaper and grinding discs and buffing wheels. I did everything I could, and this is the best I can do. Yeah, it's got a really nice luster to it, but the scratches are still embedded in there. One thing that I think is really cool is the handle. The handle turned out really nice on this knife. I really like this wood, this paddock or paddock, I'm not certain the name of it. This nice reddish orange wood. It was really nice to work with. Shaped up really nice. I like the way the finish is all the way around. That part of it turned out really good, really comfortable in the hand. Got a nice coat of boiled linseed oil on there and a little bit of beeswax to give it a little bit of luster. Now, is it practical? No, it's not really practical. I'm not going to use it too much of anything for any reason for anything. A good conversational piece in my shop or in my office when people come by and say, yeah, I made this out of a saw blade. Now, can it cut paper? It's got a little edge on it. Yeah, it can cut paper, but that's about it. You know, considering this is what I had to start with right here, and this is what I ended up with, it's not too bad. So all in all, I'm proud of the project. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more video.
See you next time on Jimbo's Garage.